It's a Category 5 cyclone.
This was the origin of that cyclone.
Now it's been described as possibly the biggest cyclone to ever hit the country.
India is preparing for a massive cyclone.
Strong enough to uproot anything on its way.
See, I'm barely able to stand. I'm holding on.
Kill anyone on its path.
A severe cyclonic storm is going to hit the Odisha coast by tomorrow.
A state prone to natural calamities was the target of this disaster, which had already killed thousands in the past.
In 1999, about 10,000 people who died.
But not this time.
The Odisha government has built up the disaster management capacity in a substantial manner.
This film is about one of the worst cyclones that had ever hit the Odisha coast.
The sound was coming so furious, I was just nervous.
And how the people and the government of the day unite and successfully face such a disaster.
Constant engagement and education of the field machinery is extremely important.
This film is about the lessons learned from previous disasters that ultimately saved thousands of lives. It is a time of festivity in Odisha. Preparations for Durga Puja, one of the biggest festivals in the state, have begun. Most government employees are heading towards their native village and are in a holiday mood. Little do they realize that these celebrations are short-lived. A disaster is waiting to strike Odisha.
It's huge. The area of cloud covers
far away in the Gulf of Phailin, more than 1,400 kilometers from the Odisha coast. A deep depression is formed. Soon it changes gear and moves northwest towards the coast of Odisha, intensifying into a cyclonic storm. She is named Phailin. Back in Bhubaneswar's meteorological department, Director S.C. Sahu is tracking the path of Phailin very closely. He discovers that Phailin has further intensified into a very severe cyclonic storm of Category 5 and would soon hit the Odisha coast. And the district which is in the eye of the storm is Ganjam.
We were actually very much frightened when JTWC, that US Navy site, showed that it may cross more than 300 kilometers.
Now the Odisha government has just 72 hours to act. The Chief Minister of the state, Naveen Patnaik, calls for a series of emergency meetings at the State Secretariat.
The disaster preparedness.
He makes the mission clear to all his ministers and top officials. 0 casualties. He cancels the Durga Puja holidays. He orders all the government employees to immediately report for emergency duties. Knowing the gravity of the situation, no one complains. All stand by their chief minister. Under the dire circumstances, fear grips the people, leading to panicked buying of fuel and food. The chief minister instills confidence among the people and government machinery.
Not to panic over the situation and face it unitedly. The state government has taken all necessary steps to face the situation with promptness.
By now, the Army, the Air Force and the Navy are called in and put on standby. The National Disaster Response Force and Odisha Disaster Rapid Action Force are strategically placed on ground. Phailin is now just a few hundred kilometers away from the Odisha coast. the Odisha government takes a step which would make all the difference between life and death. In the next 24 hours, as many as 1 million people are evacuated within a radius of 10 kilometers from the coastline in 9 vulnerable districts, mostly in Ganjam. They are safely shifted to the nearby schools, colleges, government buildings and cyclone shelters. This is the biggest evacuation operation ever in Odisha.
People don't want to leave their house. We put them in a pressure, if necessary also police pressure, to evacuate from their one place to another.
Cyclone Phailin makes a landfall near Gopalpur in Ganjam district. It batters the coastline with a wind speed of over 200 kilometers per hour for several hours and destroys whatever falls on its path. When the dust settles, the destruction caused by the disaster is shocking. Phailin affects over 80 lakh people in 19 districts of the state. 2,34,000 houses are damaged. Almost the entire electricity infrastructure in Ganjam is destroyed. Total loss to the state is over 25,000 crore rupees. However, amid such huge damage, the death toll due to Phailin and the subsequent floods is 59. A similar super cyclone in Odisha 14 years ago in 1999 had killed over 10,000 people in the state. The low death toll in Phailin's case has almost accomplished the Odisha government's main mission of zero casualties. What made the difference between life and death between 1999 and 2013 is preparedness and timely evacuation of people.
Whole credit goes to our Honorable Chief Minister. Evacuated almost 11 lakh people, something unthinkable.
But the battle is only half won. The crucial role of relief, restoration and rehabilitation is yet to be accomplished. More importantly, the outbreak of waterborne diseases needs to be prevented at all costs. Of the several Odisha government departments which play a key role in the accomplishment of such a mammoth mission, the Rural Development Department stands tall. And the preparation of the Rural Development Department begins even before Phailin strikes.
RD department basically looks after all the rural infrastructure, which includes roads, buildings and bridges, and then we also look after water supply and sanitation. And the first thing that we did was to have a meeting with all our chief engineers, and then again having a meeting with the district level officers and explaining to them that this is what is likely to happen and this is what the IMD has reported. So we need to be ready with a plan as to how we can resolve this. We knew that it's going to come at 240 kilometers. So the overhead tanks were filled up well in advance, so that it works as a safety from the structural point of view. And at the same time, we realized that if the power infrastructure is going to get affected, once the overhead tank is available, so at least for 2-3 days we'll be able to provide water supply till some normalcy comes up.
The loss to the Rural Development Department caused by Phailin is huge. The challenges ahead are daunting. 44,945 tube wells are affected. This is 29% of the total tube wells in the state. 3,089 pipe water supply projects are affected. Under such circumstances, lack of accessibility to safe drinking water could result in the breakout of waterborne diseases, which could very well and quickly erupt into an epidemic. But this problem was nipped in the bud, thanks to the detailed planning of the Rural Development Department. Under the initiative of the Principal Secretary of the Department, Mr. C.J. Venugopal, towards pre-disaster preparations and post-disaster relief and rehabilitation efforts.
Several villages were affected. A lot of roads were damaged. There were breaches on the roads. Some of the bridges were affected, and a lot of water supply schemes were affected. The tube wells were submerged, and but since we had this preparatory arrangement in place, we were confident that yes, we can deliver results. But we were quite shocked with the entire destruction that it had caused.
Cyclone Phailin affects 3,000 Gram Panchayats in 19 districts.
निजे सुस्थ रही अन्य को सुस्थ रखिबा ही गां परिमल भावनार लक्ष्य.
Reaching out to such a large number of people spread across vast areas within a tight deadline invites several challenges on the ground.
Within a very short time, we could be able to arrange some of the generator sets, gensets from the far-off places also, and so many PVC tanks from far-off places, so many vehicles from far-off places also. That is the most astonished things, that we could not imagine that we could be able to arrange so many things in such a short time.
In the absence of seamless coordination between the concerned departments and the district administration, executing such a mammoth task is impossible.
We got all very good response from each and every department, and a coordination meeting at block level also is being done every day with health department, RWSS and other link department.
Planning and coordination. No matter how detailed, is only half the job done. Success depends on the faultless execution of the plan by the foot soldiers on the ground. In this respect, the department is fortunate to have in its fold a number of dedicated team members. They all work beyond their call of duty to accomplish the mission. Case in point, 38-year-old Tuna Nahak of Ganjam district. Tuna is a self-employed mechanic in the Rural Development Department. He earns a mere ₹1,000 per month for his service to the department. Phailin submerges his village completely, leaving thousands, including his family, marooned. In spite of this, Tuna chose selflessly to first serve the government in this hour of crisis. Not for 1 or 2 days, but 45 days. Tuna repaired tube wells and distributed water pouches provided by the department to the victims. Small acts that have saved lives.
सर्विस करबी ए मन भत नतला ए जनस्वास्थ्य स्वास्थ्य परिवार प्लस गाँव कल्याण समिति ए सब सहमत नेकरी गाँ परिमल विषय नेकरी मु टिके आग्रह हेकरी जाय.
Tuna is one among hundreds of ordinary individuals who turned heroes in the hour of need due to their extraordinary acts. Gauri and Shanti, like Tuna, are self-employed mechanics in Balesore district, trained by the Rural Development Department to handle such crises. In the devastating flood that follows Phailin, Gauri's son and Shanti's mother fall severely ill. These women braved both their personal difficulties and the aftermath of the cyclone. They nursed their loved ones back to health and simultaneously worked tirelessly to ensure sanitation in their locality so that others do not fall victim to diseases.
मोर माँ तने 65 एज तंकर देह बहुत खराब थिला तथापि मां से पाख डिस्पेंसरी मेडिसिन आनी माँ को देकु तापर आम गलु जे बहुत ऊंचा ऊंचा जगह गुड़ाक देखिकी लोक मान टिके पानी केमती नहीं पारे से जगह गुड़ाक पहुँचलु.
पानी हूँ मनुष्यर जीवन बंची भी पारे मारी भी पारे तेणु आम दायित्व जे पानी जोगेबा.
In addition to preventing the outbreak of waterborne diseases, the Rural Development Department had another important task before them: restoration of transport and communications infrastructure. Phailin tore through 3,471 kilometers of roads, leaving them damaged or breached in many places and blocked by fallen trees, debris, and electric poles in others. Unless these roads are cleared, conveying relief and restoration materials to the necessary areas is impossible. Thankfully, the Rural Development Department is well prepared for the challenge. In just 48 hours, 90% of the affected roads in the district are cleared. Within 1 month of Phailin, the Rural Development Department repairs the entire 3,471 kilometers of damaged roads.
My people were already in place, so immediately they could start the work. The more important is another is delegation. I had asked my engineers to spend whatever the amount is required, barely necessary, go ahead. Don't wait for the instruction of the higher authority.
As the Rural Development Department heads towards completing its restoration target after Phailin, disaster strikes again, just 1 week later. This time, it's a massive flood in all the districts affected by Phailin. The floods dampen the spirits and test the patience and commitment of Team Odisha to the extreme. The probability of an outbreak of waterborne diseases increases exponentially.
In some places, there was a repeated, when there was a flood, second time, there was a fatigue which was setting into the field machinery. And when I was talking to them, I realized that this was happening. Then I myself went to field in a number of places, interacted with the field staff, and I was regularly talking to them on telephone and then trying to keep their morale high.
However, the hard work, dedication and perseverance of the Rural Development Department finally pays. Within 1 month of the disaster, the Rural Development Department disinfects 1,23,607 tube wells. As a direct result of the leadership and the efforts, not a single death is attributed to an outbreak of waterborne diseases. Furthermore, quick restoration of transport and communication ensures proper and timely movement of relief and restoration materials.
They have did wonderful job. They have submitted their plan earlier before the striking of this Phailin, and they have appointed their nodal officers for, up to the road wise. And same time RWSS, they did a tremendous job. Rural water supply system was working awesomely.
सरकार हमको साहाय्य कले RWSS थ्रू सेथिरो हम लोक माने उपकृत हेले पानी पाए न देथिले असुविधा हितांता जीवन प्रभरी ठकठाक सेठी नउटे पडथांते लोक.
It is because of such remarkable achievements of the key government departments that the nation as a whole and the world at large takes notice and appreciates the Odisha government for the way it handled the disaster.
An excellent job in getting basic systems up to work, the power supply, the telecommunications, getting water.
However, every disaster leaves behind a trail of lessons to be learned. The 1999 super cyclone had taught the Odisha government how to be better prepared to save lives. Phailin too leaves behind some hard lessons.
Some of the lessons that I learned in '99 made me hold my nerves during this crisis. I think big thing that sort of helped me was that not only go for zero risk approach in the whole thing. We try to identify each and every risk that we have to face during the crisis and try to put measures in advance so that we can mitigate the risk.
There is a standard operating procedure for natural calamities as to what we should do for water supply and sanitation. And because of this Phailin and then the floods which took place, there is a need to change and update this standard operating procedure.
Over the past century, 98 cyclones have hit Odisha. It is unlikely that Phailin will be the last natural disaster to strike Odisha. But Phailin will be unique in that it put the disaster preparedness of Odisha to the ultimate test. A test from which the state and its government machinery emerged victorious, thanks to their teamwork, planning and indomitable spirit.
I thank all the elected representatives, especially the sarpanchs, for effectively helping people at their time of need. I also thank the government employees for their selfless service during this hour, cancelling their Dussehra Puja celebrations. Our primary responsibility was to protect the valuable lives of our citizens. I think we have been successful in minimizing the loss of precious lives.